And we're meeting this week, right, is Friday, is that?
Next Friday.
The week of Friday.
Week from Friday.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll come back to discussing adequate later in
Yes.
the meeting tonight. Andy, now that you're seated and all comfortable and warmed up and whatever, is there anything the selectmen feel that we need to know or would be interested in?
I don't think so.
Okay, in that case, we're moving right along. And Wayne, we're ready to go to the highway budget. You want to come a little closer to us? Would you be-
You can sit here. I'll move this way.
Right.
Come and sit by us.
He's got a chair. He's
Yeah,
got
sure.
How many copies of this thing do I have? I think we got two different ones, right? Yeah.
Wayne, do we have all the trucks operating now?
Yes.
Which was not the case at this time last year.
No, we got, actually, we brought in the spare. We brought that, we got it running, we've had it out back, so we got it in there today, and, started right up.
Good old one, right?
Yep, the old green one,
Yeah,
yep.
always a better one, you know.
Yeah, we got it in there, and, actually, before we got it in there, we put the plow and the wing on it, and then we went to go lift it up, and then, the cable broke.
Oh, no.
So we went and got a new cable and got that all back together, so now we got it back running. Actually, we parked it in the new building down there.
Now, how's the new building? Are they coming?
Oh, it's good, coming good, yeah, yeah. Well, we put it inside right now, we figured we got it running, we'll put it inside, and, there's no heat out there, but
And that's
at least it's out of the weather, and,
diesel?
it's diesel,
Yeah, so it's good to be out of the weather.
yeah.
They don't like weather.
No.
Oh, the colds are good.
Is the new building something that we can look at?
Yeah.
At some point?
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah, I went down when I was putting my stuff in the recycling. Nice.
So, I mean, we don't need it.
It's all enclosed right now. It's a 50 by 100, and it's all enclosed. It's got the doors, the windows in it.
Do we need an appointment to come, or is?
No, just come right down there.
Okay,
We'll be there.
okay.
If we ain't there, the doors, there's no door locks on it or nothing yet, so you can just walk right in.
Are the keys in the
we haven't
vehicles?
really
Yeah,
ever-
swing on
Yeah, they're hanging on the table.
Yeah.
What's the order, you know, so when you go in there, pick it out,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure.
No, but we got all the plows and all the wings and everything is all already on all the trucks we're gonna use anyways.
All you need now is some snow then,
We
right?
need some snow. That's
We
all
might
we
get
need.
some.
And we really don't need that if it doesn't wanna come, it don't have to.
No, it sure does not.
Let's not do that.
No rush.
Snow's okay, it's the ice that costs us money.
There's no one up country this weekend. We had a lot of Pittsburgh.
So, one question I have is the amount of funds that you have used year-to-date is seasonal. I mean, so there's still some season left to go.
Yeah, we still got, I'm still spending some money. It's still coming in. And I'll be spending more when it snows before we get on the new budget. Because I got enough salt in my, in the barn right now. And we got sand and salt mixed, and we got salt, but when we start getting storms, and I'll be calling for salt. And usually it gets about, usually I get two trailer loads. I don't know, it all depends on the storms and how much we use, but most of the time, at 67 miles of road, plus the buildings and everything to do, and we pretty much use a trailer load every storm. The storms last quite a while when they come in, and between that, usually I do manage to use bring in one load of salt. Unless it goes longer, then we kinda go over.
Oh, you're ahead on inventory from last year, because it was kind of a light year last year.
Yeah.
I think we actually used a lot of salt last year though, because we had a lot of icing.
Yeah.
So, and that's where the money is, the salt
Yeah,
is killing
salt.
us.
Yeah. Plus their, my sand pile froze up. Once that freezes too, it clumps up, so you can't put it in the truck. But, Chris Beebe's got it so now that he can bring in the sand, he can bring it in all winter. So therefore, when he brings it in, it's not frozen because he helped us out last winter when it froze. And I was still able to use it, but,
When you say bring it in, where'd you put it?
what's that?
You said you bring it in, where did you put it?
Outdoors.
Oh.
You have two covers, I thought.
I was
No,
gonna say, who did it?
I cover the sand and salt mix,
Oh, okay.
that's covered, but the sand itself is a big pile, it's a huge pile.
Does the salt unfreeze over the summer and then is usable the next
Oh, yeah,
year?
that doesn't hurt, salt's fine,
Doesn't go bad.
we just mix it up, you know,
But
go in, hit it, and, oh yeah, we keep it loose.
you have to hit it to keep it loose, to keep it,
loose, yeah.
to keep it from
As long as it
solidifying.
don't get wet, you're fine,
So how do you keep it from getting wet in this?
it's covered. So the salt's covered in the building.
Oh, okay. Okay. So does it look to you like you're gonna need the rest of your budget through the end of the year?
Right now, I'm gonna need, I forget how much it is. Right now, I'm gonna need, I can tell you. Chris Beebe's supposed to bring me about 20 loads of, sand. He got about 6 loads there now, but we still got the rest to bring in. He had some hard luck. He had, one of his tractor trailers got totaled and he lost the transmission in the other one. So he's been down, so he's trying to get it in now, so we got it. But I mean, he can get it all winter long, and he also got some help, so, if he's got some guys that can truck it in there for us, so. He's just getting, he's got his good truck back and just getting started on that, so I'll be spending some of that money there. I can tell you how much that is.
So the highway budget's broken into 2 separate budgets, one is highway and one is snow and ice removal. The actual highway budget only has $47,000 remaining. 20,000 is in salaries and 15,000 is in vehicle repairs, which, because of our talented highway employees, we've saved some money there, because they've been able to work on the trucks instead of sending them out.
So not this.
I was looking at this one that was sent out today.
Gotcha.
I didn't see that one. I thought I got them all.
So it looked like the total DPW budget was maybe a couple $100,000 left for the rest of the year. The budget being $595,000 and we've expended $384,000.
So the current, as of 11/28, was 438.
So all the way at the bottom of this one.
Yeah, so as of 11/28, are you looking at, which one are you looking at? Are you looking at the one dated 11/28?
Yes. Well, I'm looking at the first one.
This one on the
That
back
one's
page.
not right.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at another one too.
On the back page.
That's what I'm looking at.
Not this-
Nope.
I don't have that one. The night is printed mine
I have a
this
question.
morning.
How much did the building that you just put up cost?
Top of my head, I don't know.
Where did the money for that come from?
Some of it came from the budget, and some of it came from the revolving fund.
Okay, so that doesn't show up anywhere on here?
The revolving fund?
No, just none of that, that doesn't
I don't
hit.
know if that building's been come out of here yet.
Okay,
I know when he presented his budget last week, it wasn't out of last week's budget.
okay.
When did it go up?
It just got done, if not, they're still working on it.
Yeah, that's what I was.
But the money's spent, right? Like, money's gone. I'm assuming we've paid.
Well, we
people.
will get a bill.
Yeah.
We haven't,
Maybe next year.
well, I'm sure they won't wait till next year.
It's not coming out of this, though.
Some of it is, yes.
It is, oh, I thought the revolving account was gonna cover all of it.
No, there wasn't enough money to cover it with building costs. We actually had to go with a shed style that's not heated or plumbed or,
Call it a waterproof box.
yes.
So how much was the deficiency involved?
I don't remember what the total cost deficiency was.
Do you remember what the total cost-ish for the project was?
Remember what the total cost of the building
I know,
was?
and I didn't hear it.
Where would we see it in the,
You
It's
wouldn't,
not,
it's not there because,
because it's not been billed yet. Is that correct? We haven't paid
yeah, I
for
don't think
anything
the
yet?
whole bill has come in for it. Most of it came out of the revolving fund, which was specifically for the building, but any deficiencies was coming out of the budget.
so we didn't budget for the deficiency last year then, is that? So it's not showing in the budget for this year?
Correct. There's no line item for the building in the budget.
I mean, you didn't know how much it was gonna run last year.
No, we didn't even know if we'd be able to get it built last year,
That's the one that you had a hard
because
time
we
getting.
couldn't get any bids for somebody to build it.
Is a long-range plan to heat and plumb it?
Yes,
How long-range?
when we can afford it. It's rough, so it won't be like crazy, but
Do it in waves.
yes.
So, two of your employees, I presume it was the full-time employees, were able to repair
Yep.
at least one of the vehicles and maybe more?
We did them all. We did all the trucks that need, we had to send some of it out because, we didn't really know where to start. But we sent it out, and then it took them a while, there's two of them that they go ahead and went and fixed. And that's what, with the DEF, all the DEF stuff that's in there, the diesel fuel, that stuff there in the engine. They took care of that, we had to send that out. But like springs, brakes, and stuff like for inspections and stuff, we did that at the shed. We saved a big bucks by not sending that stuff out. And we did 4 trucks this summer. We just did the last one about a week ago.
You have praised your guys for their ability mechanically. Is that that in your job description,
Well,
or
Jeff-
is this above and beyond?
Jeff
What is
did a
expected?
lot of work, he worked for a lot of companies, what's the name, construction. He's been doing construction for a lot, and they brought him in a quite a bit. And Caden also, he's mechanically inclined too. He works on his own trucks and cars, so. But what these guys did, if there's anything that they didn't know, they went up on the computer, went in the computer, and they have a class. They go right to the point, what's wrong with the truck, and they just sit there and
YouTube?
the guy takes and explains or what's going on, what is wrong, with the truck. We know what way to look for, like as far as the brakes go and the springs and stuff like that, to pull them off, And he did a little bit of, we did a little bit of work, we had to put some parts down in the engine. And we had sent that out, we sent it up to Liberty. It come back and they didn't put some parts in, the truck didn't work right. And Jeff went up there and looked and see where them parts were, and he took, probably about a half a day. And he tore them off, that whole engine apart and put them in. We didn't have to send them out, because he went up there and
But I'm looking at their wages, you've gotten to the point you're paying them well, and that's good.
yeah.
It's very comparable
And,
wages.
I mean, they do everything.
To answer your question,
No, so the positions they hold, I don't know what their titles are or whatever, but is that part of that position, or are they going beyond
No,
the
just
scope of their
beyond.
job? Okay.
They're not, but
Did you look at their
mostly
wages? They're
laborers.
getting good compensation.
so one position is light mechanical, but they've gone surpassed what light mechanical, when you start rebuilding
Say
an
more than
engine.
Dwayne did, shall we say.
Yes.
yeah.
But
That's
yes,
a jump.
one position is supposed to be mechanically inclined, but that's, to fix.
I'll tell you something else that what it really helps is when we send these trucks out, these places are booked right up with trucks, and you won't get them back within
Weeks.
weeks.
Yeah, it's true.
Long as we can get the parts, like most of the time we take them to Liberty, we get the parts up to Liberty. Anything that we need, well, the springs, we went right to Dunham Springs and got the springs, and they made them in a day, and we brought them back and we put them in the trucks.
That's
I
true.
mean, it gets the trucks back on the road quick,
It's like you've got a great staff.
and it really works good. That's
Are
a
you,
good part.
are you confident that you're doing all you need to do to retain that skill in your department?
Yeah,
Yeah, if you look at their wages and the package and everything, you've got a good plan. That's a-
we do everything. Plus the work that comes in, the calls that come in during the day, we get something apart, we'll have to leave, we go back, and we keep going. It
Sounds
works
like
out
you've got a
pretty
good
good
team,
for us.
unlike
Okay.
previous history.
And you guys are happy?
Yep.
Okay.
Did that particular, I did not get them, because I printed everything I had. When you sent this one out, I don't have that.
I sent it out today.
Late-
I didn't get it till today. I sent it out as soon as I got it.
Yeah, maybe I was at home and I didn't see it. I printed mine this morning, but we were in Concord all day watching the recount. That's it. So, okay, so it looks like you can get this. We need a motion to accept it.
Well, I just had a quick question. So it looks like these bottom 10 categories or so, starting at hand tools and signs and those things, it looks like there's variable use, like you don't use those every year. Is that accurate?
What's that, some of the line
Just-
items?
Yeah, just like those lower ones.
Well,
with-
some of on the line items, there's some line items that might not use, but I need them there, so if something happens, we never know what's gonna happen. We don't know how many storms we're gonna get, and we don't know what we're gonna be up against with the work. Now, I'll tell you, one of the big things that we have going on is we're starting to get calls on a lot of trees. A lot of trees that are side of the road, that it's beginning to go bad. They're going bad. We're getting calls, and some of these trees have to be taken down by a crane. We had several of them this summer. To take them down by,
I got on Mill Road today, there was a group, that's town group, right?
what's that?
You had the, right on Mill Road today?
That's Asplin.
Yeah, that's what.
Asplin's got a crew here now. They've been gonna come all summer, now they're in town, but they're helping us. They're taking these trees down, these big trees. They got a crew, and they've been in here for a meeting and everything, and they're taking them down. We don't, but there's quite a few trees that is on town roads that we have to take them down. Now, I had, I forget how much was it,
$4,500.
$4,500, like $4,500.
level funded though.
Right, and I don't know how many trees we've taken down through this summer, but I think I got like 2,000 left.
2,000 trees?
About
Dollars.
$2,000. I think I have $2,000 left. Now, what I'm probably gonna end up doing, we got a tree right now that's sitting over to the, sitting over at the historic building. That's really going bad. And we're gonna have to take that tree down, and that's gonna have to be taken down with a crane. So when we had that $2,000, probably just barely gonna cover that, to take that tree out of there. And, we've had, it's $1,800, I know, was one tree that we took down this summer. $900 we took down, what's that?
Ernie Russo's, that one? Ernie Russo's tree? Is that the $1,800 one? Quality Falls Road.
Crowley Falls Road, that tree, yes.
How about
So-
on that corner of Crawley Falls right now, if half of it's there, I don't know if it's down road or not. That corner, that goes out on 125, from my corner.
Oh, yeah, I don't know whose tree that is, somebody cut that.
And it ended up in the road, and then somebody picked it apart. It broke out, and they found out pieces of it, and the storm ended up in the road.
Yeah, they moved all the stuff,
Yeah.
but I don't know,
It wasn't
I didn't know if it belonged to the house there, was that Butch's house there,
Yeah.
that is rental or whatever?
Yeah, it's rental.
And, I didn't know if he had that cut or not. I mean, they moved all the stuff back away from, some of it they took, but they moved it out of there. But I know what tree you're talking about.
Yeah, this one.
There's part of it still there, I believe.
Yeah, and it was a mess, it was a real mess.
Letty, did you get,
So,
Kinda to answer your question,
Yeah.
yes,
there was, back in the day, the money from the scrap metal used to be set aside to buy tools and equipment. The auditors really did not like that, so we started the line item for tools.
okay,
And we never know from year to year what he's gonna need for tools. A special tool may cost $2,000 or whatever, so.
right. And it also sounds like on any given year, maybe one or two of these categories will go over, but you never know which one, and it,
Right.
so like, one of these will be negative, but the positives in the other will leave your bottom line
Yes.
intact. Okay.
Now, if you're looking at the tool money, actually, if you look at it, it probably ain't on there, but last week I went out, and got $500 worth of tools that we need. I've still got more tools that I need to get to be able to work on these trucks.
Okay,
Um,
especially if you're able to do more of the work in-house.
Yeah. right.
well, you can never have too many tools.
Of course
I mean,
not.
that's,
No,
that's
we
for
just,
sure.
all we've ever had is just,
That's your period of yours.
regular wrenches that you have, but now, getting into these trucks, we find that we need
Okay.
different kind of tools to do it, so.
Do-
I've been trying to get some of them so we can make sure that we can borrow them. I mean, we can go see, Scott Bartholomew and them guys, and they help us out. If we need a tool, we go over there and they give it to us and we go ahead and take care of it.
At one point, there was a discussion about some kind of an analytical tool for determining what's wrong with your
Yeah.
vehicle.
Yep.
Is,
Yep.
That's
Well,
the safest money to-
We actually, when we need something to go wrong, I don't know if you know him, Louis over to Bartholomew's, we try to get the truck over there and he'll put his machine on
On the
there.
machine.
But it would be nice if we got enough money that we could have one of them ourselves, because they're not really big money,
I
but,
thought they were big money.
no, not,
Well,
you
it
can start
depends.
with a small one and not get the real heavy one,
The
and
big heavy
you
duty.
tell a lot, yeah.
Computerized one.
There's different prices on them, but.
are they specific to specific vehicles or?
Oh, they go on,
No,
they
just the
go on
truck.
all our trucks. The ones that they have, they just plug
No,
them in and,
whether it's General Motors or
Yep.
whatever,
usually,
okay,
all our trucks are internationals, so.
okay.
I don't have the figures because I don't have that sheet, but I make a motion that we accept that budget, whatever that number is, which I don't have.
Well, we're still in discussion
Oh,
phase
discussion.
here.
I don't know.
Letty, are you done?
Yeah, no, I think, yes.
I think Anthony had a question.
Just looking through, the electric's up 150. is it, it's not just.
We're adding the other building onto electricity, so the selectmen actually have talked about moving electricity out of all the individual budgets and into one budget so we can better track the in and out of the solar panels. So it doesn't, because even though the panels get reimbursed, we still have to pay it out first. Only the fire department gets the benefit during the day because they're the only ones connected. So we get a reimbursement later from Eversource. So I think next year you may see all electric in the general government line. And that way it better shows what the benefit of the solar panels are.
Would it make sense to put a small bank of panels on the new shed to just,
It depends how much more electricity we're using, because right now we produce more electricity than we use.
school will buy it? No, because what you just said, so the fire department just doesn't pay a bill
Yes,
because all of it
because
just
after
comes out.
hours,
Right,
they're drawing power.
so would the town save money if there were panels on the shed in the same way? Where instead of having to pay for it and then get reimbursed for it if they just never had to pay for it at all?
I think you would still have to pay for it, because there's time of the year that it doesn't produce enough electricity to power, like, something at night, it's not producing any electricity, there's no battery.
And you have to buy
Backup.
the units.
It doesn't bank the kilowatt hours? It's not net throughout
It's
the
not like
time?
residential, it's different than residential.
Okay, yeah.
Like, when I looked at residential, they
That is
offset your
literally how it
electric
works,
bill.
yep.
It doesn't work that way.
Okay.
Anthony, you all set?
Yep.
Alina?
Yeah, I don't have any questions, I've been just looking at the numbers and it's hard to hear everyone in the room, but I got the most of the conversation.
Did you have any questions or comments, or?
No, Wayne is, I mean, based on what I've observed, is very, like his attention to detail is awesome, so he knows his numbers. And with regards to the increases that we see here, it's, I mean, the salaries are within what we've seen so far. And I don't see any excess in any sort, so I'm
Okay.
fine with the fight.
Okay. Could you hear that, Wayne?
I didn't hear it at all.
It was high praise for you, I'll just leave it at that.
It was.
Is there a motion?
I did motion, but I didn't remember because I don't have it.
It's, well, we doing both or one?
Let's.
Can we do them separate?
One at a time.
Yeah, 'cause
Okay.
So-
highway is 437, 326.
And who seconded?
Second.
No, you made the
Oh, I
motion.
made the motion, I can't do it twice.
Let me make sure that number's right, because
It doesn't say.
it's a different number on the next page.
Yeah, 438.85.
Sure is a different number.
Yeah, I have, the one I have. is-
Let me go back to the original worksheet. Highway should be 437, 326, 31.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I
that's
see.
right. These are just the two numbers, I mean, the same number.
Okay.
This
That'll
must
be the
be,
first, that'll be the
this
motion.
must be
It
a
doesn't have this one.
It must be that one.
You say 437 through 26?
Yeah.
31, yes.
Don't forget the 31.
31 cents.
Okay, so 437, 326.
Yeah.
Motion by Lois, seconded by,
I'll second it.
Okay, Letty,
Aye.
Anthony,
Aye.
Aye.
Andy,
Aye.
I sorry, I passed you.
Alina,
I
aye.
and I'm an aye.
And snow and ice control is $222,933.06, and that's a motion.
Give it to me again, please.
222-933.06.
I like that number.
Okay, is there a
Okay.
motion?
For that, just what he just said.
You-
Second. Either
Okay,
way.
So that one's 222.
222933.
06, you got it.
And we have a motion and a second. Okay. Letty?
Aye.
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 Ah,
Aye.
Elena?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Motion passes. Wayne, you're good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyway,
Thank you.
now we go to, wait a minute. Two.
Okay, Letty distributed some information from the SAU on adequacy, or let's say the inadequacy of the adequacy account. So Letty, I'll let you speak to it in whatever way you want to.
Does anyone have any questions? I guess we can start there. There's a lot of information.
Well,
Oh,
do you know how this is calculated?
Yes, so if you click on that link, it brings you to a giant table. And then there's also this little worksheet that breaks down how it's calculated. So basically, for fiscal year 24 and 25, which is the next school year and the year after that, they do it on 2-year cycles. The base rate per student is $3,866. So that is meant to provide an adequate education for a public school student.
When kindergarten to, 12?
Yes. And then on top of that,
I'm sorry.
3866. It's not, it's this link.
Okay.
And then on top of
It's
that,
not working.
I know. On top of that, there's an added stipend for a student that's eligible for a free and reduced price meal, an added amount for a student who is special education or an IEP, added amount for a student who's an English language learner, and an added amount for each third grade pupil whose achievement score on the state assessment for reading was below proficient.
For each first grade?
Third grade pupil
Okay.
whose achievement score was below the proficient, who didn't already get counted in one of the previous areas. So that's how that number is determined. These numbers, that base number is determined by the legislature every 2 years. So our state reps pick those numbers. When they did this, they made an inflation adjustment of 2.1%.
So the allocation to Brentwood from
Yes.
fiscal year 21 to fiscal year 24
Yes.
decreases 27%.
Yes. So fiscal year 23, 22, fiscal year 21, 22, and 23 were all affected by COVID. So if you go onto that website and look to see how it was determined, they froze some aspects to keep those numbers higher. So that top page letter talks about the number of student enrollments dropping in the state. You don't see that until this year because they kind of held those numbers.
But, so Brentwood, between fiscal year 21 and 24, dropped 27%.
Yep.
Nobody else is close to that.
Mm-hmm.
East Kingston down 4%, 6%, 18%. Newfields is up 11%, and Stratham is down 16%. Is our student enrollment did it drop that much more than everybody else?
Well, it dropped a lot.
Not
But
at the
why?
elementary school.
But
But
why,
it did, in the middle school it did, big time.
So this is, I don't know if you printed this, Lois, it's the second page, it's broken
This
out
one?
into, yep, it's broken into elementary and the co-op. And so I think you're talking about, or are you talking about overall numbers, Jack? I mean, either way,
I'm on page 2 here.
Yep.
I don't know whether that's, I presume that's overall, but, well, it says, yeah, it lists elementary and Exeter Regional Co-op.
Yep.
As a total, so it is for both.
Yep.
So I'm still wondering why our drop is so much more than the others. Is that, did we ship some kids off or what?
I can look up, I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, the base of the estimate that they give us, is that based on population or is that based on income to the town or?
That's based on enrolled students. Let me
Enrolled.
see if I can pull up enrolled numbers. So,
It is my understanding from the other budget committee that the middle school had a tremendous drop in the last 2 years. Tremendous. Big numbers. That's why there was a major fight over cutting out the teacher, the whole unit at one point last year, because it was, the student populations was such, had gone down that much. It wasn't a what if, it was substantial.
So is the implication here that all else being equal, that we're gonna need to come up with another $400,000?
Could be.
That's the way I read it.
That's
So
why
we
I
don't-
read it too.
so we don't typically look at revenues here, but it has to get paid somehow. We're getting less from the state.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't come out of the sky and, you know,
Um,
we have to,
Is
with the
that-
taxpayers, we gotta
that's
come up with it, basically.
That's the 23 tax year? Because it says 24.
so fiscal year 24 for the school is the school year that goes from 23 to 24.
Next September to next June,
Yes,
following June.
so let me look up,
So that's gonna consume all of the debt service benefit from the high school.
$377,000
It looks so
as
nice
I
and
see
bright.
it. That's
Your
the
trees are so cute.
400 and
Out here.
yeah,
Oh.
so let me
And the
see.
debt.
Yes.
Five-
You
500.
have
Did a great job.
21. Let me just see if I can pull up.
It's taking the fun out of paying off a bond issue.
Right? So fiscal year 21 ADM for the elementary school was 276.66 students. And for the high school from Brentwood was, and all these numbers are on the DOE website. They're actually, they have a ton of statistics. So 424.04 at the high school, and then
Remember, we're like, we always end up with the short end of the stick, for lack of a better way of putting it.
let me see if I can pull up the number that they're using for this. So the year that ends in 22.
It's definitely gone a tremendous amount since 21, wow.
So the year that ends, so from fiscal year 21 to fiscal year 22, Swayze gained 21 students. And the co-op.
I don't think we think that number's wrong, right? I mean,
It's
it's what we've got to work with.
It is from the state.
Right.
And it's what
And it's
you
not gonna
based
change.
your tax rate on, so. Yes.
The tax rate, that's a fun one, that's the next 2 pages.
So from 21 to 22, it went, our student count went up,
Yes.
and, okay.
Did
And,
they go from
and
21
yet,
to 22 and up?
and yet our,
The number of students that we had in those years, but, so the other problem is that we're budgeting based on this, so like, we're budgeting
2 years out.
2 years out. So
But
we
go
don't,
back-
we're kind of guessing based on how many we have now.
Can you tell the middle school, I mean, you say that Swayze in the high school, but breaking it out Did it go down?
Let me
Yeah.
look and see if I can.
I don't believe I was misinformed, as I said.
No, I mean, I mostly focus on the high school, just, or on the elementary school, that's just because that's my school, but let me see if I can find.
We spent many an hour on that situation, so.
Alright, so fall enrollments. This one's not broken out by town. Wait, hold on, maybe.
Our dollars from the state went down from fiscal year 21 to 22.
And so did our enrollment. From 82, the way I read it, the elementary is 872 and it's 797, I think, definitely going down.
Sorry,
Going
which one are
down
you looking at?
continuously.
Which one?
Look where it is now.
What are you looking at?
The year 21, elementary school was 872,000, round out,
Yes.
1,000,002 for the
Co-op.
co-op.
Yep.
And then at 79,000 and 122,000, that's, to my way of thinking, both of those are down.
Sure, but so the number I had in front of me was for the elementary school, from those 2 years, it actually went up 21 students.
The money went down,
The
but
money
the
went
students
down,
went
the
up.
students went up.
Yeah, so how can that happen?
It doesn't make sense.
They might have a certain
Because the
amount of
cost per
money.
pupil for
Because it
education
cost per
changed.
pupil,
Yeah.
Yes,
So somebody's
yes,
figuring out that in 2026, what it's gonna cost to educate a student, when you don't have no idea what the salaries, utilities, and everything else is gonna be
Right.
next year, never mind in 2026.
Those enrollment numbers include the pre-K?
no, it's just kindergarten.
So it's different.
I looked up that, so that base number, that $3,866 per student, to see how that's trended over the last 10 years. So it gets adopted every 2 years at the State House. It goes up by about $70, $70 to $80 every 2 years.
For any cost reason, or just because
That's the number they picked.
it's flying by and
I mean, so
They just throw it up on the
right
ceiling
here,
whenever
where
comes
it
down,
says
you
how
know.
they picked it, they said, we're gonna increase it by 2.1% this year. This is a question for your state representatives.
So the co-op budget and the SAU budget, it's apportioned based on the number of students. Do we know how our students in that system are trending? Right, because we're dropping for 370,000 or so for adequacy payments, but is our apportionment dropping as well?
It depends on what the other districts are doing. So if our number of students is going down, but everyone else's students are going down, then the proportions will all stay the same. If ours have gone
But
down
do we
by
know
more.
where, I mean, I'm just trying to figure out the net from
Yeah,
the overall co-op budget. Because all this stuff, I mean, does this change how you think about some of these other budgets now that you know that most of the debt service is being eaten up?
Yeah,
so this is always been this way. This is not,
What has?
that the vast majority of the school budgets are paid by the local taxpayers and not by the state.
Oh, no, I know. I mean, all the numbers add up to a final number that we charge our residents.
Yep, so even with all of this, our tax rate is still going down next year, or now,
This year.
this year, yes.
And that's related to the fact
Next
that
year is this year.
pretty much, the
Because
economy-
next year, we don't have the 400. Next year is when we start get taxed for the $400,000. It's not this year. Right,
What?
this year it hasn't changed.
What, $400,000?
Our adequacy payments are dropping.
So this is just an estimate. Like,
Do we think that it's gonna be materially different than what they're estimating?
realistically, no.
So we're gonna have to come up with 370 extra
yeah, so
$1,000.
we can't count on the 500,000 being something that will help cover other costs. We might get 125,000, but that's not the 500 that we thought was gonna be there.
Right, and we don't we pay debt service on that for most of the year? So it's really '24 that we really get the benefit, right? Big benefit.
We make the last payment in August of next year.
So we don't get the full 500, we get 3/4 of the 500.
Yeah, well, not till the budget year, the following budget year.
Right.
So. Well, okay, so it's in
Which
your,
is when those numbers change, right? Because they're estimating out for
Yes,
24,
and then we'll get a new number in the fall.
25, and 25, 26.
We'll get a new
But-
number in the fall, so,
For '23 to apply to '23 taxes, I thought.
yeah, like what just happened, right? Like, the select board just set the tax rate based on actual numbers, not the estimates.
Right. Looking backward.
Hey, I want you to all look at the tax rate, this is a historical event. Brentwood is now not the highest. Exeter is. First
You
time.
can thank three
No.
towns for
Ding,
that.
ding, ding, ding.
No, I think all of these papers show that Exeter is the highest, all
No,
of
they
these
don't.
years.
Look
Yes,
at that.
yes, they do. 2020,
Well,
Exeter
yeah.
was the highest, 2021, Exeter was the highest, 2022, Exeter was the highest.
Well, and so they should be.
Right.
I mean, but,
I think the rate was different though. Brentwood's rate
that's
per
what,
pupil's always been higher.
yeah, for Q students.
No, Brentwood pays the same amount per student as all of the other towns. Brentwood
does.
pays the same amount per student as all of the other
What
towns.
is our figure of the,
On the
Yes,
That's
so
not-
basically the way it works at the co-op level is they figure out how much it is per student, multiply that by the number of students the town has, and then hands the town the bill for that amount.
over 2 years, right? It's like an average of 2 years.
Yes.
That wasn't the way it was explained to the board
not
last
me
year.
either, not me either.
Okay.
That's not my
But
understanding.
I'm happy with that because that makes
I
sense.
would be happy to explain that to
There
whoever
was something
that would
else
be
that we
helpful
had
for.
COLA or whatever the heck that extra, I've forgotten now what the word is, but we get a certain extra because of our town situation. I can't remember the rules again.
So the reason why Brentwood feels it more is because our tax base is not as commercial, it's mostly on residences, so
Right,
the co-op hands Brentwood the bill for their number of students, and then the town has to come up with that by dividing it by our total tax base. So we pay the same per student, it just feels different to us because of how our tax base is made up.
That makes more sense.
I would be happy to explain that to whoever,
I would too.
I can do a whole, if that would be
We'll
helpful, I could do a,
We'll talk to Liz for you.
I could, I
that's
could
what we'll
bring
get.
more, or I could send out more
Well, I
information
get
about
mine
the
from-
apportionment.
It's just weird
Formula.
because for years that's been a bone of contention that has been talked about over and
Yeah,
over.
We almost talked
and over.
about withdrawal
Absolutely.
because
Absolutely all the
It's never
time.
been just, you know.
It's-
Sure.
And even
Well,
on
no,
the
that's-
distribute, you
she's-
know, on that, the distributor, whatever that word is, budget, you see the difference. I mean, every year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they should, when they present the co-op budget and they show each town, it's
Never that way.
never the same.
The first I've ever heard that, ever.
So
what she's saying is correct, and it's been misunderstood for a long time. It's
I hope that that's,
based-
let me tell you something, I hope that's
I
correct.
went through all the numbers last year, and that's the reason why.
So if it would be helpful, I can get some information to send out to everyone and then go over it again more fully next meeting, if that would be useful.
I think it wouldn't hurt,
Fascinating.
it wouldn't hurt to have that.
Okay,
That's terrific. I hope you're 100% right, because that was not my understanding of it.
I can do that, that's, that I can do. Actually, you can kind of, so if you look at, any of the tax rate pages, the line that says co-op school assessment, you can see that Brentwood's, I'm looking at 2022, but Brentwood's 8.7 million, East Kingston's 4.1 million, because they have half as many students as we have. Exeter's 24 million, because they have 3-ish times as many students as we have. Kensington's 2.9 million, because they have less than we do. Newfield's 2.9, because they also have less than we do. So the amount of money that we are paying towards the co-op is in proportion to the number of students we have. It just feels different because of the tax base
And
that we have.
also in proportion to our tax base. Or
Is our
our
tax
lack
base
of-
is
our
divided?
lack of-
Yes.
Tax.
The basis, that was my understanding, the tax base.
Yeah, this total assessment valuation number is kind of the dividend in the,
Right,
and
you
that's,
divide the budget by the tax base.
Yes.
and you'll get the.
But there's a whole table that the state sends out every year, about what the co-op proportion is gonna be, and they break down, it's literally an Excel spreadsheet, they break down how they get to those numbers. So I can find that and send it to everyone if that would be helpful, and we can walk through it next time if people feel like that would be useful.
So for next, so there's, at some point in time, there's gonna be a $330,000 deficiency. How does it get billed to us? Since it's for 23, 24, do we realize half of that next year in our tax rate? Or do we realize the full?
No, it
370?
happens whenever the tax rate is set. So
Okay.
when they set the tax
So
rate,
next November.
yes. When they set the tax rate, they
Just
will look
give
at,
some
they will do
maybe-
literally this.
There's another.
So the entire, because next November, we're basically paying for the full 2022. That tax, or is it the tax rate for the next year? So the tax rate is ex post facto, right? It's at
The
end of
tax
year,
rate
we
comes
basically go back.
after the budgets have been set, yes. So there's this whole tax card thing that they do for every town.
Right, so that was set in November
Mm-hmm.
for 2022, reaching back to January and going forward. I guess the question is, are we gonna, for next year, next November, are they gonna say we're 370 deficient?
Andy, how long is this tax rate in effect for? Because basically, the one we got at the beginning of the year was an estimate.
Right, exactly.
We set the tax rate in November.
Right. So if they
So we
guessed, they guessed.
yeah, the first tax bill is a guesstimate,
Right.
and then the second
Right.
tax bill
Is the
is
correction.
a correction between what the tax rate was guesstimated as and.
So, do you guys understand what I'm trying to get at? So, this, we're saying there's gonna be a drop of funding, 370.
Right.
Thank God.
Call it 400, just call
All
it
right, so
400.
we'll call it 400.
We gotta live with it.
Right, at what point does that hit our rate? And does it hit our rate fully next year? Or does it hit our rate like half next year, half the year after, because it's 23, 24?
It
So the
hits-
DRA looks at whatever we have from revenues coming in and whatever's left over from unassigned fund balance, and then takes that and subtracts it from the budget to come out with the tax rate.
How do we fund the school, the co-op monthly? Or do we fund
Yes,
it-
we pay the co-op monthly,
Mhm.
and
Okay.
we pay the co-op monthly and we pay Swayze monthly.
Does it vary from month to month, or depending on what their?
No, it's their budget divided by,
Okay, 12.
So basically, for half a year, when do we get the adequacy payments?
They come in November, like we finalize them in November.
I'm just trying to figure out if it's $400,000 or if it's $200,000 next year.
It will be felt all at once because the school is on a fiscal year that goes from July 1st to June 31st. The town goes from January 1st to December 31st. So the school, we vote on the budget before we start spending money, is the best way to explain it.
so
we
the
don't-
budget they present to us
Yeah.
coming up is for the 23-24 school year.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think you're saying the cost per pupil change is not taking effect till the 24-25 school year?
23, 24.
23, 24.
So we have, so if we look at next year, between January, the school budget, between January and July 1st, it is the adequacy, associated with the adequacy rate that's $1.9 million, something like that.
No. And this is where having different fiscal years, I feel like, is confusing. So, the way that the town budget works is from January to March, you're kind of just hoping and guessing. Is that accurate, Andy? Like, because you're operating not on a real budget?
Well,
Estimated.
we're hoping the budget gets
Estimated.
approved.
Sure,
You're operating on what? We should be operating on whatever the budget committee number is,
sure,
minus pay increases.
sure. So the school doesn't ever have to do that, because our budget is always approved before we start a new fiscal year.
4 months early,
Yeah, they start ahead of time.
I mean.
because
sure.
it goes July to June.
Yes. I know that that's not really answering your question. The answer is that it hits all at once because these numbers are only calculated once when the tax rate is set.
Technically, the school is 4 months into their budget, and the town is 11 months into their budget.
Yes.
No, I understand, it's just, the adequacy payments for the 21-22 year, which we're in right now, half of them essentially applied to the, I'm sorry,
We're in the 22, 23
yeah.
year.
Half of them apply to January to July, the adequacy payments, so $1.9 million, something like that, right? Half of them apply basically for the first 6 months of next year, and then we get an adjustment that's gonna drop it by 400,000, and then that's going to apply 6 months to next year, and then
I don't think so. I
6
think
months
it's gonna be for the 23, 24
Does
school
this-
year.
does this help? So this is literally the calculation that they do every November. They don't break it down, they just say, it is what it is. I guess because of that offset that we're talking about the budget starting and stopping
I
at
see what
different
you're saying, it's
times.
gonna, so it will hit us 100%,
Yes.
100% of 400,000. Okay.
Yes.
Is that, 1.93, do you have the page before this?
I just wanna make one quick correction to what I said earlier. What is
Yeah.
the first? You see, Brentwood has always been the next, the highest next to Exeter. Well, ever since I can remember, but, 2021, Brentwood was still the highest. This year, we are behind East Kingston. I mean, that's not a big deal, but it's only a few cents, but for once, we're not that, like, you know, the young kids on the block, and we've always been right up there. So I think it's great.
It's
All I can say is we're not,
Yeah.
for once, we're not the
It's
highest paid in the area.
It's the denominator doing it, it's three
Well,
parties doing it to us.
And, the state legislature has decided that it costs $3,800, $3,866 to provide an adequate education
$3,800, right?
for one student for 1 year.
And that's about a drop in the bucket compared to what we're paying.
Yes.
Yeah, bottom
So-
line.
So, so
It
that's
isn't even close,
another
let's put it
problem.
that way.
You sound like you'd like more than 3,800.
Well, that-
2% escalator isn't really a lot when
Oh,
you're talking,
Start-
social
starting
security is
small.
at 8 points, whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
2% is,
Right.
and that's, if that's historically what the number they use,
I don't think it's
I
in
said
there
that
by
facility.
historically.
Right, they-
well,
that's
$60 to
not-
$70, I estimated on a $3,000 was $60, so.
Over two, but that's for 2 years. That's not every year, that's over 2 years, so the other year it's 0. So I've been trying to figure out like what that number was, say, 20 years ago, just for comparison. It has not gone up much.
but that's
If they
because,
increase it, it
that's
comes
our,
out of our
that's our tax
tax rate
system.
anyway.
We're not paid by, the state doesn't educate our children, we do.
You know, it depends on how the state raises.
Well,
Raises
this
its
state,
funds.
there is a law
I
that
thought
says
it
the
was-
state needs to provide funding for an adequate education. That's why they give us this much.
But the bottom line is still us, the taxpayers, we pay it at the local level, we pay it, or we pay the state income tax or whatever they would do to raise that money. It's still gonna be us either way you go at it.
Could be,
And this would be a more, if we have, we have it now, we have some say over it. If it goes like to New Jersey and the other states that I've lived in, then that state comes out of the state and you don't have any say, and your little town doesn't have any say. Your local school board is really, there, you don't have any, how your funding, what your courses are, what anything, you know, your curriculum. When you have what we have now in New Hampshire, and I say, I lived under both of them, it's such an improvement way, I mean, I know the money a little bit of that, because it's still coming out of a different pocket, you're still your money. You're paying it to the state income tax or whatever, and then you're paying it back to the school, or you get it directly from the school to you, so you have local control with your money, so.
I mean, we still locally set our Swayze budget, even though the state.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so I don't think that would change if
It
they
would,
gave us
if
more
it went
money.
to this, yes, it would, if the state had control and had paid the major portion of the bills, they would have the say, they could just look at New Jersey, that's exactly how it works, I have a doctor of nursing, a superintendent of schools, I'm talking from what I know about. That is the way the state of New Jersey and the other states that have government funding, total funding, state income tax, i.e., that's what you get.
I am, to be clear, I'm not saying a state income tax, I'm just saying.
That's what you would
if-
take to get what you're talking about.
Can we?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So, Letty, you'll come back with
I'll send
a
out some
real
stuff.
definition of how,
How the apportionment works, yeah.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
can send it to you and you can send it to people and then I
Yep,
can answer
yep,
questions.
yep, we'll do that. If we can clear that up alone, that would be a great
Apparently, yeah.
step forward, so,
Do we
thank
have any
you.
visitors? No visitors.
No, there's no motion on that. Okay, next subject, I circulated some information on the income in the town of Brentwood and poverty situation. And to my surprise, and Lois seconded me
Oh,
on
yeah.
that,
Holy smoke, it blew me away.
Brentwood is a high income community.
I can't get over it, it's Stratham and Exeter, we're higher than, you always think of Exeter as the high rent, and Stratham is the, the high rent district in the.
So, first of all, I mean, I'm open to anybody that can find data that is contrary to this. I tried to find some, just to challenge it.
I have a question, is it average median or actual center
Median,
of the mass?
median.
It's described as median, so
Okay.
half is higher and half is lower.
That's what I,
And so the best I could do, I found it for two time periods. 2020, Brentwood was at the very high level of 143,000 per year per household, and in 2017, it was ranked 13th in the state out of 235 towns, so
Right up there.
right up there all along. And
Mhm.
Sorry, Sebastian.
What's really blows me away is Exeter. Exeter was 86th at one point, and they have always paid, they always wanted the most money for the schools. We always had the, they paid, they always spent, of course, the academy pays such a big portion of their taxes.
No,
someplace.
well,
But you have a
Academy's a
different,
nonprofit, so I actually don't know that they pay taxes.
Well, well, that's another missing little,
Maybe not.
they used to, they own half of the town.
more directly, my concern was that the elderly, the 65 and over people in poverty represent 5% of our, 5% of our people
Right.
are listed as below the poverty line. And in this group, from time to time, I think most of us have expressed concern about people, particularly low-income people, being able to pay our property taxes. And meanwhile, there's I think the select board is going to be considering some adjustments in the credits for low-income people.
Are they, Andy?
yes.
Wonderful.
And my
So
my
that's-
thought is, since we have a little bit talked about this in the past, at least informally, would we like to, as a group, make a statement or a suggestion?
Can we just go back to that poverty number for a minute? Statement that we're on. The poverty number is 18,300.
Very, very low.
That's $50 a month. Like, two people can't live on $1,500, like,
They can.
that's just, so, I think that 5% number is skewed because, poverty level only being at $1,500 a month, whereas in realistically, what does it cost to live for two people a month? It's well above $1,500 between,
Yeah, I don't know how anybody in this town could do that. I mean, unless they had other,
Well, they couldn't live on 18,000, two people?
I mean, maybe they're getting their food from a food bank and
No.
you know, some,
Well, they couldn't pay their taxes.
some child care or whatever. You know, I'm not sure how it would be done, but, you know, if we want to dispute the number, that's okay. I'm happy to hear.
no, I don't think, I just think the number that's set as the poverty level is unrealistic. It's not,
Well, that's, you can't go with it.
So,
that's
a-
seriously poverty.
Where
What-
where are the current applications or like current criteria for qualifying for exemptions or abatements for
It's,
town?
Well,
it's in that list.
I sent that out late today because
Oh.
I didn't actually get my hands on it until late today.
This huge chart, if you look across it,
Yes, I don't see anywhere where it says low income,
there is no low income credit.
so we don't currently have a low
No.
income?
We have veterans, elderly,
You have to be
Disability.
elderly,
Just
You have to be
veterans.
low,
elderly and-
low income and no assets, essentially.
Not even a car,
Yeah,
okay.
so
very old guy.
our elderly exemption is at under 40,000.
That's.
We do have an elder exemption?
We do, we
I
have
didn't think
several,
about
it looks like.
Yes.
We have veterans.
We have elderly at different,
This
Levels.
big chart,
I
Yeah,
think
that's-
that's the one you didn't get to us.
That's in your mail, Louis.
you can have that if you wanna look at it.
so what is the difference between the single income limit and elderly exemption, or are those added together? I don't,
That's the amount of your assessed value that you're exempt, right?
Yes, I believe so.
so if
That's- okay,
if your income and property is less than $85,000, then you can abate $30,000 of your taxes if you're a single person. Am I reading this correctly? Oh, no, yes.
Andy, can
So
they,
someone over.
can they do more than one exemption, supposing they're elderly and they're a veteran?
Yep,
A
can
married
do
couple, if they earn less than $40,000 a year, they would get an assessed value that's essentially $100,000 lower.
I see.
than the actual assessed value. that
So
they
there's an
taxed on.
income and assess.
an asset.
An asset.
Where is the asset? Is that the asset?
There's
I
a
have to
second
speak
page.
up.
So there's an asset limit, an income
There
limit,
it is, yep.
and then the first three lines would be what could be abated.
Are there, I'm assuming there's exemptions from the assets, like the house you live in? There's gotta, come on now.
I would hope that is, but I don't.
Come
I
on.
don't know if the property is part of the asset, I think it's
That would make sense.
It's- stocks, bonds,
Sure,
ret-
car, I mean, 2 cars will just about push you over the asset line.
right,
I
Especially
suppose that
nowadays.
would
But
all
is
be,
that,
presumably the RSA would define
I think that,
those.
I don't, would that be under property assessment? There it is. Abatement application, elderly exemption pack.
I think that's something we need to put out in the public.
You
meeting,
have to
because if
be
I don't know about it, I live.
A New
with
Hampshire
my neighbors,
resident for at least 3
No
consecutive
one's getting,
years.
but I know I was getting any of those. The only one that I know anything about at all is the veterans.
Well, the
But
numbers, but the numbers are so low that the question is whether they would qualify. I mean, let's say it's a married couple, they have to make less than $40,000 and,
And what about the assets?
and,
Less than 80.
have less than $85,000 in assets.
Yeah, you're right, that would be, like you said, with 2
So-
vehicles.
And
it
these
looks like
numbers,
it's excluding the residents and up to 2 acres of land value.
But no vehicles, or, I mean, that's the thing that gets me, is that literally if you have 2 cars,
In this day and age,
you're
I
done.
Yeah,
So our numbers are lower than the average. If you look at the bottom of the page that I've sent out to you, you know, we are lower. In other words, we're more restrictive, significantly in some cases, than the towns that have been surveyed here.
what my feeling about that is, if we looked at all of our employees, we're giving them all the things they wanna have, we should be looking at the elderly too, then, and the exempt. We need to look, I mean, that would be my initial take to the whole thing. These people need to pay these taxes that they're being,
I mean, it's not, no matter what we do, it's not gonna be for a lot of people, because there aren't,
no, it's only 5%.
you know, there aren't a lot of people making that little.
So
Wow.
it's actually more than 5% because it's not related to the poverty line, it's related to the $40,000, right? So it's
In
18,000.
age.
Right. No, it's not related to age.
Yeah, these are all by age.
Elderly exemption is by
Exemptions
age.
are by age.
Elderly
but
exemption's
the
by-
income limit is not, so we mentioned $18,000, but that's the poverty line for a two-person.
Right.
Right.
Year, but the income limit is $40,000, right? It's not 18,000.
Right.
So we're looking at more like,
So,
$300 a month worth of income, right?
Right.
Not $1,500.
well, and there's not a huge number of people that would even qualify for this elderly exemption. There's 14.2%.
The 5% that originator said originally is that income, it said income by, probably by town, okay. 5%,
No, I'm saying that this elderly exemption for Brentwood is for anyone 65 and over,
right,
which is only 14%. 14% of the town. So even if every single person that lives in town that's of that age qualifies for this, which they don't, it's
right.
not a huge,
Yeah.
Burden, is what you're saying to
Yeah.
the town.
And I think the other problem with the elderly exemption is a trust is exempt from it.
say that
So it
again.
has to be a real person that owns the property, so if your property's in a trust,
Yeah.
it's not a real person owning the property, so therefore it wouldn't be,
Is there a reason
like
it's
a-
like
like-
that?
I think that's the way the law reads.
Okay.
So there are people that are benefiting from trusts that could take advantage of,
No, I think it's the opposite.
can't.
Right, they can't,
They can't take advantage of it, if they have a trust.
because a
they
trust owns the property and not,
can't. Not the
and-
person. That's the, that's
But
the
I
thing.
know that like
But-
a lot of people, you're kind of supposed to put your property in trust at some
So,
point.
yeah, so you don't pay tax on inheritance tax and all those different reasons to have a trust.
So, is there any suggestion or possibility of having some sort of exemption based on poverty level?
well,
Aside from the elderly exemption? Or in
So
addition
not-
to the elderly exemption?
I don't know if there's a law that allows that.
Who's not, are you discussing it?
If
It's
there's
not
a
on the
law-
agenda
if
yet.
there's not a law, they can't do it, right?
Right.
Jeff, this is fascinating.
That's-
All this is amazing.
That would kind of fall under welfare.
Right.
If a person's having a hard time because of their income level paying taxes, it would kind of fall under the welfare law.
Right, I know
We don't
that,
have very little welfare, do we? I mean, really?
well, I know, I guess I just don't know, does that usually happen after their tax bills are due, like overdue for the 3 years? Or is there something that happens along the way to kind of catch those people before they get to that?
As far as I know, we've never had a welfare case with taxes or a poverty claim.
We had lots of tax sales years ago anyway. I don't know if they did recently, but.
We haven't had a tax sale in the 12 years I've been here.
Wow, yeah.
So
I
they
have
don't
no
pay their
idea.
taxes
I remember when I
because
first
they
lived
don't
here,
pay
there
their
wasn't.
taxes, not because
Remember
they're
Bob,
below poverty.
Usually
Right,
the
or-
panel, right.
because in totality of the circumstances, they're having problems, whether it be a job loss or, you know.
So, I mean, my purpose really was just to try to bring up the subject here to see if there was some interest in, can we do something for the low-income elderly? Do we want to? I'm gonna suggest that we think about it.
Well, yeah, well, do we have, as the budget committee, is that something we have
No,
jurisdiction over?
no, we don't have jurisdiction. What we can do, if we agree to do something, we can say a letter to the select board, that the budget committee feels that the numbers should be adjusted, and we make suggestion that way. If we don't agree upon it, we obviously can submit something individually to the select board before they make their decisions. But we really, the budget committee has no real
That's what I
direct,
thought, that's
real
why I
direct
asked.
line in this.
I thought that, but that's fascinating that we know this isn't, really, you know,
But let me,
Would we hypothetically see the impact in this year's budgets?
no, it's gotta be a warrant article and, right, Andy?
Yeah, so I believe exemptions need to be applied for by April something.
Do you know how many people apply for the various exemptions?
I don't, but there's a number out
There's
there.
gotta be a number somewhere, right?
Would Daphne have that, do you think? Or Karen?
Karen would be able to obtain the number.
Well, I know that,
Hey, Jeff,
Yes, Elena?
I couldn't hear the question, but was it perhaps like how, because I was confused with the schedule that you sent with the 5%, I wasn't sure if it's 5% of that 1.1 total, because there's a column that says all, and then 5% of that, and what does it represent in numbers? Is that, because I couldn't hear the question.
Yeah,
What does it
the way I read it is, it's 5% of the over 65 people.
Because the way that I read it is that all people that qualify for that fall in between the lines of poverty, right, is 1.1% of the population, and then 5% of that is over 65. That's the way I read it. So it would be, I think it would be pertinent to clarify that.
I think that's what the stat is, Elena.
It's 5% of 65 plus.
No, 5% of the poverty level is 65 plus.
oh, I read that as 5% of the total.
No, it's 5% of,
I see.
Yeah, it makes more sense, because
Yeah.
5% of,
it's 5% of the 1.1.
Yeah.
yeah, that's the way I thought too. So that gives us an idea
Is
of
that-
approximately how many people we're talking about, right?
Well, there were actually numbers. I went back to that website and I pulled up the actual numbers. I put them on another sheet which has the information that you're just looking at, plus some more. One is the number of people in the 60-plus age groups. The number of seniors over 65 in poverty is 29, according to
29 people?
29 people of that website. And I'm gonna give you this sheet, Lois, so it'll be there. And I also did some quick calculations. If you give somebody a $100,000 exemption, I wanted to know what it costs to somebody that owns a $400,000 property. And for each $100,000 exemption that you give, it's $1.21 on a $400,000 property. That calculation's at the bottom of the page. So I'm gonna pass these out. Elena, I'll have to, if I can remember, I will email this to you.
I don't
There
know
might
the
be an
number,
extra one
but I
in
can
there.
tell you that for the year 2021, there was $1,292,500 in exemptions for $722 million in assessed value, so it's less, not even 0.1%. Is how much people are claiming for exemptions right now.
What were those numbers?
Exemptions, 1,292,500, and the valuations before exemptions is 722,404,449. This is transcribed out of the town report last year, so if there is a digit incorrect, it is my transcription error.
So what I'm gonna suggest is we look at these numbers, what I just passed out, and also the spreadsheet that is in your emails. And come back at our next meeting with whatever suggestions we each would make for the elderly exemption.
I guess I would be curious to know how some of these other towns picked their numbers. Like, Exeter's numbers aren't even round numbers, so like, how did they get those?
Yeah, they might be, maybe they're inflation adjusted to come up with something like that, or maybe they had a fight at some meeting and that was,
Somebody picked a random percentage to make
Yeah.
things, yeah.
so, I mean, there's nothing to vote on this, but,
So there's, one other thing to keep in mind is that we have developing a much larger elderly population by design because of the over 55 communities. So that's going to impact the number of people who qualify for whatever we choose.
I think most of them wouldn't qualify based on assets,
40,000, based on assets.
based on assets and income.
there's a lot of,
$40,000.
Well, if the house isn't included.
Right.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how many of them are still working versus not working.
And I don't know, I'm looking at our bylaws, and I don't know that we as a committee have, like, I don't know that we can recommend anything as a committee from
Well,
what
you
our,
have no jurisdiction.
from our
Yeah.
responsibilities as a committee, I'm
Right.
just saying. I'm not saying we shouldn't discuss it or whatever, but I don't think we have the
No, Jack and I both said that, we don't have jurisdiction,
authority
I'm sure.
to necessarily make a recommendation as a committee.
yeah, even a recommendation, huh? But,
I
so,
don't think, I mean, I'm looking at
Yeah.
what our job is, and
I didn't think so either, but
I
that's
mean,
why I asked.
I know before we've like taken votes of no confidence in, in various people. This
So-
feels kind of that same category of just like,
so even if we can't do anything as a group,
We can do it
at
as
least we
individuals.
know a little bit more, I think, about our elderly and low income
And we can
and-
certainly as
and-
individuals do that.
and individually, we can tell Andy what we want, and then he can ignore it. I mean, that's,
What?
This doesn't show up here, it shows up on the revenue side, so we never really see it.
Right.
I mean, it'll show
Yeah,
up in the
it's
tax
not a-
rate,
it's
but it
not a
doesn't show up
budget
in the
item.
budget.
Not a
for
bunch of
sure.
them.
Yeah.
So
Very
just-
good information,
just
Jack.
quick math, if the way Alina and I understand the poverty, that would put 50 people in the town of Brentwood in the poverty level, 3 of them being elderly.
that's more
They're
comforting.
qualified, you're talking about.
I mean,
A little, I mean,
Because
Yeah,
if you take the census number and do that by 1.1 and then take that number by 5, you
Yeah.
get 50 people, and
of those three.
5% of 50 is right around.
I feel great
Three-
that none of
2.5.
them are children. That feels fantastic.
Well,
Right.
That's nice, that
Look
the
at-
kids aren't, we have no children in poverty.
look at Danville's child poverty.
Yeah, 10 and 2.5 with the kids. And Epping, look at Epping, the children.
But it says here, 29 people, 65 and over,
Yeah, that's,
so
That-
those numbers don't make sense.
in the US Census, that's what they said, that
Yeah,
that
so
5% amount.
that number
But
can't
the,
be correct.
the problem is that I think those 29 are, yeah, those 29, but the way they broke their groups, they went from 60 to 70 not 65. And,
Yeah.
and it, so it, the groups don't break cleanly. But I will talk with Karen and Daphne and just find out whatever we can find out about maybe how many people are eligible, how many people are involved now in the program, and maybe even how it's publicized. Because you think you have even some neighbors who might not be aware of
Yeah,
the,
that-
of,
I'm fairly certain that's the case.
Would it, I know we just got tax bills, unfortunately, but would it be possible going forward when tax bills go out, just have a single sheet of like the basics of what the different exemptions are? And for more information, come see Daphne or something, right? Because everyone gets a tax bill.
They already did though.
Well, I know, but going forward,
Yeah, no, but you're right. I think
I know
Yeah, I
it would
think it
cost
would be wonderful for
money
them to
for
know that.
postage and an extra
your
piece of
budget
paper.
committee and,
Could they print it on the back of the tax bill? Single
don't
sheet
think so.
paper. Okay.
probably the tax collector is not excited about listing ways that you can avoid paying tax.
Right, that's it.
But honestly, it's such a small
Yeah.
amount compared to the total valuation, like,
Yeah, it's a
Right.
drop in the
Yeah.
it's
bucket,
a,
really.
it's, so even if
No.
4 times as many exemptions are claimed, it's still a tiny dollar amount.
Yeah,
That's,
absolutely.
but the people that it would help, I think it would be a big help to
Yes.
them.
Huge help, I would think too.
So, okay, is there any other discussion on this point?
Just thank you for doing it, wow,
Well,
most appreciated.
Okay, the last item I have is information that Anthony put together and I circulated earlier today. I'm not sure everybody got it because it went out late today, but basically, I think Anthony.
Yeah, I can talk to him.
Yep, go
I
ahead.
mean, that's what we received from the select board last year when they were proposing that we do full-time firefighters and how they were gonna spend the ARPA funds. And we are, based on what I've seen so far, we are already off track on what they said they were gonna do.
We're off track?
Yeah, because they said there's something like $69,000 was left over after what they had allocated for the fire department. And we're already spending $123,000 on COLA and retirement out of ARPA funds, which means that they're gonna.
We're spending more than they have, basically.
Well, they've got the money. The problem is that we said that it was going to go toward reducing the rate over a period of 3 years. And now we're saying that we're gonna spend it on something else, which means that it's not gonna reduce the rate as they expected, or as they said.
That's what last year's select board said, and this is a different select board.
I understand that, but I don't buy that argument, honestly. If we tell the taxpayers something, we should at least try to be good to our word.
Yeah,
Right, I mean,
just upfront.
because you can apply that to everything.
Well,
You can apply
exactly,
it literally to everything. You can say,
yes.
we're gonna fund the newsletter. Oh, sorry, we're not gonna fund the newsletter. Right?
That is
I mean, you
kind of
can't-
what happened, where the chair at the time said, we're talking about a contract, and then he was gone.
I think it's disingenuous to say that you're gonna do something and then next year say, well, we're not gonna do it.
Well, I agree with you 100%. We need to be, upfront, but so they really know what's going on, because it doesn't look like, it's like they're spending it twice or whatever. It doesn't look right to the average taxpayer, if they find out, our credibility isn't good.
Right.
Well, there's still funds available to fund.
No, I understand, but, I mean, you guys provided a 3-year plan for spending ARPA funds to subsidize the increases in the fire department. And all those were approved, and there was 69,000 left over, and we're currently spending 123 on COLA and retirement.
But how much do we not spend?
But we didn't
this year?
spend most of the money for the fire department this year because we didn't hire the firefighters.
But the money was still promised for that purpose.
But it didn't get spent, so now
It's
it
gonna,
gets.
if you find somebody,
Next
Well-
year.
anytime, tomorrow it could happen, they
It'll
find
it'll
somebody.
get spent.
The money was promised.
So, maybe I'm not, so, I'm looking at this, so, we thought we were gonna have a budget impact for this year, this year, 2022, of 400,000. There wasn't actually that impact. because-
Nor did we spend 250,000
How much
towards that
did we
impact.
actually spend this year?
I don't know what the number is at this point.
Is that one of the numbers that we had in the minutes?
We don't have that number.
I didn't see that number anywhere.
Whole business is.
Fire has used 46,992, and they're gonna use about another 10. So we thought, or based on this schedule, we thought you were gonna use 250,000, and you've used 57-ish.
See, the 2,000 were the two firefighters,
Right.
100,000 each.
Right, so, but we didn't hire them until halfway through the year, 3/4 of the way through the year, is that?
We only
Yeah,
had
very
one.
We
Yeah.
only have one.
Have
So,
we?
we
No,
We
could,
hired one.
we could in theory still follow this plan
Because there's an extra
We'll
$200,000
just
that
have
didn't
extra
get
money.
spent.
to use for the other things.
But we won't have extra money because the intent of this is to step the rate. So as the rate goes up, if we have spent it on other things, then we don't have the ability to step the rate down with ARPA funds.
You can't pay the same money twice.
No, I understand, so, but we didn't spend the 250.
I understand,
Okay.
but when we do hire the two firefighters, we are going to be fully loaded and we're not going to have the 250 to spend.
There wasn't
to step
250.
the rate. No, I understand.
2023 was 100,000, 2024 was 50,000.
Right, but that means that we're not stepping the rate. So let's just say that we didn't spend the $250,000, we spent 50 instead. Right, so we have
Right.
$200,000 and we're gonna spend it on COLA and we're gonna spend it on, I don't know, a new truck or whatever. Right, so we now no longer have the $200,000. We have no longer have the 250 because we didn't spend it last year. We used it for other things. And now we've got $100,000 and we have a fully loaded fire department with a full budget. We now have $100,000 to offset the $400,000+ incremental, which means that we're not really stepping rates anymore.
I don't think it actually works like,
Sure it does.
Plus the money that wasn't spent last year from the firefighter.
We didn't spend it.
I mean, my
we could.
concern is that we make sure that we step the rate like we said we were going to, which means that we've got to have the money available and not spent elsewhere.
Well, you're not gonna add any more than what was said, so that's the only way. I mean, there was 100,000 and 50,000.
so, okay, how about this? Budget impact for 2022 did not change. It is still only going up $250,000 next year. It's not going up more than that.
For what?
You
For,
said
so
that.
for this, for 2023?
We haven't seen the fire
Well,
budget
okay,
yet, so.
Okay, well, but if they didn't use that full 400,000 budget impact, that doesn't change the fact that that's what was budgeted for.
No, the
You're
budget,
not missing, you're missing.
so,
I know what you're trying to say is because,
we basically shifted everything, right?
no, because your tax rate still was on that 400,000, even though we didn't spend it. So next time, your tax rate's gonna be on whatever it was minus the 100,000, and then whatever whatever we use to offset taxes. So we may
Right.
even be in better shape.
Hold on, because we didn't spend it last year, it was not in our November tax.
That won't go until next November.
Right, so last year we didn't spend the $400,000 like we had planned, so.
This year,
that's
we
the
haven't
reason-
spent it.
Oh, God, I keep,
Yeah,
right. So this year we didn't have we didn't spend the $400,000 and that's showing up in our current tax rate.
Right, because that wouldn't get assessed till next November when we can show,
Right, so say we fully load next year, that budget impact would be fully felt.
no, I think because you're saying, Annie, that there's basically a delay.
So if we have two full-time firefighters next year and pay them salaries, we're saying that's not gonna show up in the
Yes,
Of course
but
it
as
has
promised,
to.
well, I can't say because we haven't talked about the budget yet, but we asked for $100,000 to be allocated to offset that. There's still 100,000 available to offset that.
Well, right, but what I'm saying is that our budget, we spent very little of it, so say our budget impact is $400,000 next year, and you're offsetting it by $100,000, as opposed to the original plan, which was $400,000 that we're offsetting by $250,000. There's a material change in the tax rate impact.
He's co-
I don't,
you are
No,
absolutely
because the
right.
$400,000 is not an increase anymore. It's already seen in the tax rate.
But we're saying that we didn't spend that this year.
then
But just because you didn't spend it didn't mean you get taxed for it. You get taxed for it in
you're taxed for the
anticipation
total
of,
amount.
It's in your tax bill.
spending.
You paid it, you've already paid ahead, you paid it.
If they
You-
don't
you are
spend,
correct, you
hold
just
on,
gotta
so
pay
this,
it across.
maybe you don't know this, even if they don't spend the money, you still pay the taxes.
That's correct. Exactly right. So you're
And
paying it
then-
twice.
And then, no, cause then anything, they
Got it.
use the
Unassigned fund
leftover
balance.
unassigned fund balance to buy down the next year. If that makes sense, kind of.
Buying down this year.
Actually,
Got it.
I think it's one of the lines in here.
She's
Yeah.
speaking as if the school is well experienced in this exact
Now look,
Yeah.
series of
So-
steps.
here's how much the town appropriated, here's what their revenues were, here's what their fund balance.
Yep.
Voted surplus, I don't know what that column means, but here's the fund balance to reduce taxes, that's the that's the funds, yeah. Yeah, I don't wanna say leftover, cause it's not really leftover, it's just, cause basically it just comes, it's, and you,
Fund- the
that's
fund
where you
balance.
retain some from as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's,
But that, the retain's always about the same, so it's not.
yeah, so, yes.
Any other discussion on that topic? Okay, anything else that we need to discuss tonight? Okay, our next meeting is Friday, I repeat, Friday, December 9th.
Week of this coming Friday, right?
Yes, at 5 o'clock. Alina, you listening?
Yes.
Thank you. We'll be doing fire and library, I think, if the select board gets those done. But there's a quick turnaround. After that Friday meeting, the next Monday, December 12th, is our next meeting when we'll be doing police that night. So we've got 3 big budgets ahead of us. And I will do my best to get the police budget out to you ahead of time. I think we have all the names and addresses of the attendees today, and they've already had their public say, so. Is there a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Letty?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
I,
All right.
Alina?
Aye.
And I'm an aye.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Thank you all.
Check